Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:10. And we have full attendance of our committee tonight, so it's nice to see everybody. Thank you. Thank you for making it tonight.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, indeed. I'll take a motion on approval of the minutes that Shirley prepared for the December 11th meeting.
So moved.
Motion made, second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 9-0. Thank you. Chairman's report. Shirley was kind enough to send out a budget update in between our meetings, so that's in your email inbox. No dramatic changes with regard to that. I have under my report also update on land trust and CPC funds. These are some questions that John has asked in our last couple of meetings, and I've reached out to the coalition. I don't have a major update. John, I don't recall, I don't know if in the last exchange you'd had a chance to look at anything, but John's been talking about some out-of-the-box ideas that might involve ways of positioning CPC funds with regard to land trust that would allow the town, that would allow us to be able to take action. I think that was your thought,
yeah.
if something came up. And so Stuart Saginaw from the CPA Coalition has been very helpful in providing information. He's been clear as to what might be considered out of bounds, but we've never been shy about asking questions, so we'll continue to do so there.
Did everybody get a copy of that? Because there's a lot of good information there.
I may have just sent it to you, John. I'd have to go back. I turned it around pretty quickly. Okay.
Well, it's worth looking into because, we can't start our own land trust, but we can certainly have a fund available so that if that piece of property comes up, we don't have to wait for town meeting. It still has to meet all the criteria that it always has, but, it'll be a fund available for that. The really good thing about it is you can do that as well for the housing, and so there's two things that you can do that for. So that's something, worth looking at.
I'll forward the email to the rest of the committee through Shirley then. Great.
Okay, I'll wait till I read it and ask the questions that I got spent.
Thank you. I want to thank Shirley for helping me under other with our committee's annual report, and that was submitted on time. I would also mention under other that one agenda adjustment will be under 6B, the closeout of the housing production plan funds. As it turns out, through our most recent financial report, we did expend all the funds. There are no funds to close out, so we won't be taking action on 6B. Under item 5, liaison reports, we currently don't have any designated liaisons for any current open CPC applications at this point. So there's no, I would presume there are no reports other than reports that we'll hear under number 6.
Tom,
Teresa.
can I ask you about, so I have full intention of submitting an application that will need a kind of quick turnaround so that if I can get it in by February. So I don't know if you want to designate a liaison to work with me, or if I just do it, or how you want to handle it.
I think this might be special circumstances where
Okay.
you got as a member of the committee who's also on the historical commission, unless if you need technical assistance, but
No, I just wasn't sure.
Thank you. I don't see the
Yeah.
need to designate somebody along with, and just for context, Teresa, you're referring to the historical markers project.
That's right. So
Okay.
we're going to try to get that, I would like to try to get an application and approval so that it can make the spring town meeting so that we can actually get the work done and have the markers in for this year, which is the 200th anniversary. I'm behind, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you, very good. Under old business, I'm going to carry the Story property on the agenda in the event there's any update on terms of contact or otherwise.
Did I report that back to you about contact?
No.
Sorry, so I wasn't here at the last meeting, but at the previous meeting, I had just asked about whether anybody had responded to his letter, and so I called him, and he was so grateful. He said that he had actually submitted some sort of application years ago and nobody had ever contacted him, and he just decided to do it again to see what happened. So he was thrilled that somebody acknowledged it and received it. I told him that, there had been another piece of property that we were focused on this year, and that it's something that would be taken under advisement, this year, and we would keep it on the radar. He said he'd be happy to talk to anybody, walk the property with anybody,
That's great.
Certainly, he wasn't in no hurry. You know, it wasn't like he had a deadline and that somebody else was trying to buy it, but he really did think it was worthwhile for the town to have it because of its
Yes.
historical nature and just the geological stuff.
It sounds like the finest possible threshold that we need to step across here.
Yeah,
As soon as we get some bandwidth back by wrapping up the other land project, I would say that's the very next one. So I thank you for all that groundwork, that's good.
And Phil, that would mean conservation would take it up as a matter and then it would eventually come out.
Right, we don't have it on our agenda yet, but
Sure.
our hands are full trying to finish the sleeper acquisition
Sure.
and the, all of the boxes check off very nicely for this to be our next project, at least to consider for our next project. So thanks again for laying the groundwork.
Excellent.
and if you need his number, maybe I'll just,
Could you let me know?
can I just send you an email with his
Yes.
stuff? Yeah, and then you can give him a call.
That would be
and-
delightful, and I'll get it on the conservation agenda as soon as I can, probably, I don't know, February.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. Skipping down then to 6C, discussion about sports fields in middle school. So since we last met, I had, there were kind of two irons in the fire. One was to ask Nathan Collins, who presented to us last month, to follow up with information largely driven by a point that Eric made at our last meeting about what would it cost if we didn't just restore the middle school field to its beloved dome shape, but actually regrade it to a more playable shape. That was one facet of the quote that wasn't included. Nathan has not provided me with anything to this point. However, I did email him and ask him, I explained to him that we did have a meeting tonight. He wasn't able to meet that expectation. But I'm confident that he will follow up. I've asked him to put his entire quote on the company letterhead summarizing everything. The quote for all of the backup on the turf, artificial turf component, the backup on the restore it, and then this third option, the second option involving natural grass, which is included with a new irrigation system and some regrading. We've had some great conversations. We've certainly become much more aware about what's involved. But the companion to this is also that at this point, there's no prepared application for the committee to consider. So we've not received anything. I did have some outreach from a member of Hanson Youth Soccer. As I see it, similar to Teresa's point with the markers, depending on hopefully our schedules would hold to the best of their ability, but I would see our February and March meetings, okay? The way that I would see this rolling out is, there's a March 8th deadline for articles for spring town meeting. And so what I would envision the best that we could do for both the markers project and for any kind of fields, engineering, whatever, would be applications are to this committee in time to start digestion for February. At best, we sanction a placeholder, but then we have our March meeting, and it's really at our March meeting where the answer will be this committee's yay or nay, whether or not it would appear as a recommended article for May. Anything later than that, we would not be able to accommodate for.
We do have, just because I might be the
Please.
issue, is that there's the March 8th is the deadline for putting in an article. You could put in a placeholder with the blessing.
Yes.
April 8th is this meeting, and April 16th is the deadline for when they start to print. So we could have until April 8th to say yes or no, and then let them know, pull it before it gets printed.
So we might be able to steal another month out
I'm
of it.
just saying, yeah, one more.
Okay. Yep, the second Wednesday in April is April 8th, so our meetings are a little bit earlier. Okay. So with not needing to communicate with Teresa, but I will certainly reach out to the folks that I've been in communication with, letting them know. As we've talked about in the last few years, we want to be supportive, but we don't want to be digesting a lot of stuff last minute. Fortunately, this particular topic of the middle school, we've already started considerable conversation on. But I would like to see some detail for February so we can begin in earnest the conversation, because as we might recall from the last meeting, we want to see where the support lies with other boards in the town. before entertaining an application, and that takes time. Diane, you had a question?
I just wanted to know if they ever, or is it close to being resolved about the maintenance piece on the field? Like, did anything?
It hasn't even been discussed yet.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
We certainly have communicated to the Board of Selectmen that, looking forward, that if there's going to be advocacy for a town meeting article in this area, that we would encourage the powers that be to address the maintenance issue. It's a legitimate question that would be asked. We're just asking it early.
Parks and Fields and the school department together, it's, school department can do it, but they don't have the funds, and Parks and Fields doesn't have the funds, so if somebody's gonna do it, there's gonna have to be more funds put in someone's budget to take care of it.
But everyone understands.
More than just the mowing.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
okay.
So if there's nothing else on this topic at this point, I would likely assume that it would be something in February, and I would be urging the parties, if we can get you documentation before the February meeting, it's just longer to give you to plan and some time to read it, but hopefully we'll see something by our February meeting. Under item 6D, updates on various projects. In no particular order, North End cabins.
There's being done still. A lot of wind damage, some tree damage and stuff that had to be taken care of in the fall. But they are still getting done.
Thank you.
Did you ever get the trees around the lodge taken down?
That was at Monday's meeting, and that's happening. I'm supposed to meet with the tree warden and the rec director soon to mark which trees and prioritize.
Around the lodge.
And on the drive, on the way up. I know. And I already told them, Teresa, that it would be a bone of contention with a lot of people in town. But that's for another
Can I
meeting.
make a suggestion? I know it's probably a little off topic, but, you know, professional arborist would probably would make a good case for whether those trees are worth it or not, more so than the tree warden.
If we ever had access to one, I would be really happy.
Okay. Thank you.
That did come up. But the whole issue of an arborist is not lost on me. I get it. Okay.
Thank you. Alan, nothing new on Bonding House at this point?
No, it's kind of on hold right now.
Very good. And conservation restriction, Thomas Mill?
If I could address that, and also sort of at the same time, sleep preserve.
Very
We're
good.
working with the Wildlands Trust on both those items. They're very different, but it's the same people on each end. They're concerned. Scott Fade and I vainly tried through the holiday season to set up a joint meeting time. Now the holidays are behind us. I think very soon we'll meet both to see where they are, because really in their end for the conservation restriction approval, and also Sleeper Preserve, the last few budgetary things, we need to make sure we do have enough money from our different sources lined up. And with the new town administrator, who's the new procurement officer in place, we will, I think, be making a lot of progress between now and the next meeting.
Very good. And Phil, we might as well have you run the table with the rest, Botieri Field Town Forest.
As far as I'm concerned, the town forest piece is done. I don't know, maybe Eric has an idea.
I do.
Is there anything else to be done or spent for the parking lot, for example, or something else?
Parking lot's a big issue up there, but it's the town's parking lot, because people have complained to baseball many times about the parking lot, but,
Which I hear too.
yeah, I mean, but as far as the fields, those are all done.
What are they
Yeah.
complaining about?
I-
Just that there's not.
Grading, people want it paved, but you
They don't
can't
want to
pave,
trim
and you
on
put
it.
drainage in, and, I mean, it's,
But is the issue of the materials that are being stored up there, that's resolved, right? I haven't seen.
well, it doesn't really there's not really a whole lot, I don't think they really maintain it much, like, they don't do any like grading up there.
No, but there was the highway department,
The
or
people
somebody
that-
was
The
storing.
stuff
there are
people were
public
leaving there
utility
and storing
projects.
there.
Oh, yeah.
That is, what we need to have happen on the town forest side of things is not block our brand new access
Right.
with a pile of material or utility poles or some giant parked vehicle. And what we'd like to do is, and actually hearing that you think you guys are all set, is maybe take a few of the remaining dollars we have and firm up, as opposed to allowing to be muddy, that corner of the parking lot where our new
Absolutely.
signs are. And the last thing, which maybe you guys would want to do, is maybe we can collaborate. There is a sign that really belongs to the Botieri Field.
Yes,
The
the
conservation
sign that was supposed to.
It's been manufactured,
Oh, it is?
Oh, yeah, it's in our hands. It's a nice aluminum sign. It's beautiful. It just needs to go where you folks want it to go and on posts that maybe you provide or.
Yeah, I can forward baseball. I'm no longer part of baseball.
Okay, so why don't we do this, the plan is, I'll put the sign maybe in your personal hands, and you can, do the good things that need to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I see what we have to do on this thing is, I would like to get a price from whoever knows to firm up, maybe with a little bit of reprocessed gravel, pack that down in the corner in front of our new entrance sign, and provide the sign and some posts for the Boys
We
and
can
Girls
probably
Field.
go to the Boy Scouts, maybe something they can install,
Well, they already done
Box it
our
for-
installing. You can have one of your Boy Scouts do the next one, yeah.
or.
But they installed our signs, and they could do the same for you.
That's what, that's
Eagle Scout
kind of, they're always looking for.
Troop 68.
Eagle Scouts have done the Eagle Scout projects, they fixed the stairs, they just built the pavilion.
They're doing one at the camp.
Picnic
too.
tables, there's been, I don't know how many Eagle Scout projects in the last 4 or 5 years, but there's been a lot of them.
Right. So I think those small expenditures and steps remain, but depending on what kind of wind we have, maybe another month or two, they'll be done.
Okay, just for the record and the benefit of those that maybe don't have it in front of them, there's $14,853.37 left on the Boteri line, which was from fiscal 2014. So I sounds with some sense of optimism, Phil, maybe with a few more months of maybe looking at that last piece,
Then we can
that
close out
we
and
could
make a
vote to
refund.
close it out in the next few months. That would be great. We'll return it to the sources from which it came. Excellent.
Yeah.
Poor Meadowbrook.
Yeah. I personally went to the office of the contractor who we hired to do the pathway project there. The key person wasn't there, but he's since reached out to me. I won't believe it till it's done, but he says he really still does want the job and will see if he can do it despite the fact that it's winter. It hasn't been that bad so far. All I can do is say, we were ready to change contractors, but now we're not going to until we have a decision point, from, it's up to him, getting the pathway done and spending the last remaining money there. I'd like to have it be done, of course, a couple of years ago, but what I told his staff is that it needs to be done before, I would say, before April 1st. So there's a deadline that we've actually put in writing to him.
Okay, very good. And last but not least, the PCH Park Engineering Plan.
We're getting some a really good point. The Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee is getting some good points here. The chairman of that committee and I are going to be bringing some notes to land planning for them to do a draft 2 of what the park could look like, and then we will be presenting that to the selectmen and making sure that we have public buy-in. We've had public meetings the last couple of years, and the engineering piece that we have already funded here, we'll be spending the money to get these drafts ready and to prepare drawings that we think will both seek selectmen and other public approval, and also be suitable for going out to bid on. That, if that can be achieved in the next couple of months, we intend to apply for a park PRC grant for construction of this thing. But we need to do one step at a time. But we had a 2-hour meeting that just ended here 30 minutes ago, and we're getting very close to presenting the first, I should say, comprehensive proposed park design to the town.
What's a park?
What about,
The park, well, the park PS, it's one of those acronyms you get from the government. The Division of Conservation Services has many grant programs. They have a land grant program, which we're using for SLEEPR, that stands for Local Acquisition for Natural Diversity, talk about foresting. But park, I say PRC, it's meant to sort of echo the term park, PARK, but I don't remember what it stands for.
Okay.
We've never applied for one of those, but I actually was in a meeting about a month ago with the people who provide those grants, and just because we've recently gotten a grant from them, absolutely no way disqualifies us from applying again immediately.
Okay.
It's just that we might get a few less points than someone else.
What about the bounds on the side where the stucco house has been sold? Are there some permanent bounds
The
there?
planning board laid out and approved a new property lines, and I know it was actually sold. It doesn't belong to the town anymore, so John.
But I'm concerned that the new owner would know where his property line was.
Well, the Plymouth County Hospital Committee being right on the other side of that town, and the water tower, the water commissioners being, we kind of watch that like hawks.
I mean, there should be some markers in there, though. I wouldn't stake anybody can pull out, but I just want to make sure there was some permanent markers in there.
Well, John, do you know anything about that?
Well, I can say that the only positive thing is, there's no way anyone could lay claim to public property, because there's no such thing as
Encroachment.
adverse possession, because.
Yeah, there's nothing like a stake in the ground, just to remind them to.
Teresa?
I was just gonna also, when you're talking about putting together a master plan of the park from the historical commission side, you know that we have been envisioning the Bonnie House and moving up the others, the schoolhouse and the cobbler, cobbler shop, to
The
create
Hearst
that
House.
historic village up there. And so when you talk about the park, are you talking about just the back area where the hospital
No,
is?
we're
or-
talking about every square inch, and
So-
including that, and we
Including
want
that.
to engage the historical commission in this. We've been trying to engage the energy committee and everyone else, and you folks are on our list for sure.
Okay, so at some point, when you're ready, we would definitely like to participate in that and make sure that we get ourselves on that map.
Right, we've talked to the food pantry, we know that you are a significant part of the neighborhood, and that portion of the property, when we had our public meetings way back in 2018, the Conway School, when they laid out their product, which they called a Park for the Heart at Hanson, which is kind of cool, they decided to just refer to that as the historic village section of the park. So there is overlap in interests, and we appreciate, we hope someone can come to our next meeting, which would be, I've got to check my notes, but it'll be very soon, and through the commission's network, whatever that is, you'll be seeing an invitation.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's a separate lot designated for that as well. I don't remember the size of it. but-
No, there isn't.
We don't think there's a lot line.
It's on
That's
parcel
what we want.
There isn't a lot line, no.
It's on parcel 2, which about 15 years ago, the planning board reconfigured the property, but it's on the same parcel right now as the community garden, the food pantry, and even the water tower.
But for instance, we were talking about actually getting the dimensions of what those other buildings are.
Yes.
So that we even actually have the dimensions when you plot them on to make sure they actually fit in the space that we're all thinking about.
In closing on that, I would say, like, what if the commission provided us with a table of the exact dimensions of the buildings that
Good
we would
idea.
see have it? And then then we can have the engineer sketch that on, and we can talk.
Yeah, that
Thank you.
makes sense.
Great. Thanks for that question. I think that takes us very nicely through the rest of old business with the Historic Commission. Any other old business under 6F? Okay, under 7A, I don't believe there's any other new Historic Commission business. 7B, any other new business for any member of the committee?
Motion.
A motion to adjourn from John.
Second.
Second from a chorus of others. You pick, Shirley. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. That was short and
Unanimous.
sweet. Thank you.
Adjourned.
Wow, that was record.